Imagine that. A single 1964 Lincoln penny, something most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, turning out to be worth more than a luxury home. That's not a fairy tale. It's real. And today, we're going to uncover the hidden truth behind the 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that's quietly making collectors' jaws drop all across the country. It all started with a mystery. Back in 1964, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. Copper was everywhere, pennies were in every pocket, and nobody gave them a second thought. But deep inside the minting process, something strange happened, something that would go unnoticed for decades. A small batch of 1964 pennies came out, different in mint mark. No clear explanation. And yet, those very coins are now the talk of the coin world. At first, nobody realized how valuable they were. People spent them, lost them, tossed them into jars and drawers. But decades later, when collectors began noticing oddities, slight design differences, unusual color tones, sharper edges, the mystery began to unfold. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector in the Midwest sent a handful of old pennies for grading, mostly just for curiosity. Among them was a dull, ordinary-looking 1964 penny. When it came back, the grading company's experts couldn't believe what they saw. This wasn't just any penny. It was a 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln cent struck on a rare transitional planchet, a leftover copper alloy from the early 60s. Its metal composition and flawless strike made it one of the rarest errors in modern U.S. history. Within minutes, the coin's value soared past six figures. Collectors and dealers fought tooth and nail, refusing to back down. By the time the auctioneer dropped the hammer, that tiny penny, the one that almost got spent on a stick of gum, had sold for over $1 million. But this story doesn't end there. You see, 1964 was a turning point in U.S. coinage. The mint was preparing for massive changes. Silver was being phased out from dimes and quarters, and the economy was under pressure. During this transition, countless coins were rushed through production. Mistakes happened. Planchets from earlier years were reused, dies were overpolished, and some mint marks were forgotten entirely. That's why the 1964 no-mint mark penny exists. It wasn't supposed to, but it slipped through the cracks. And here's the wild part. It's believed there could still be more out there. Somewhere, tucked away in a box of old change, in a dusty jar on a shelf, or even hiding in your childhood coin collection, there could be another one of these million-dollar marvels. Collectors were shocked when photos of the coin first surfaced online. The details were razor-sharp. Lincoln's profile was perfectly struck, the date clear, the surface glowing with that deep red-brown luster that only uncirculated copper can hold. Dealers rushed to verify it, each one hoping they'd find another. The numismatic community was buzzing. Could this be a new discovery? Was it a test strike? A hidden prototype? Theories spread like wildfire. But what makes this coin truly fascinating is its story. The story of something so small, so overlooked, becoming a symbol of luck, persistence, and timing. Because the man who discovered it didn't have a fancy setup or deep coin knowledge. He was just an average guy, emptying his change jar one afternoon when a penny caught his eye. Something about it looked older, different. He almost spun it again, but curiosity won. That one moment of hesitation changed his life forever. And that's what makes this coin so powerful. That it reminds us that fortune doesn't always come dressed in gold. Sometimes, it's hiding in copper, worn by time, waiting for the right eyes to notice. But here's where the story gets even more intriguing. Not all 1964 pennies without a mint mark are rare. The Philadelphia Mint didn't use mint marks that year, so most coins you find will look the same. But the key difference lies in the details, the weight, the shine, the texture, and sometimes the tiniest imperfections that tell the story of an error. First, you'll need a scale. A genuine copper 1964 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. But if yours weighs slightly less, say, closer to 2.5 grams, you might have a transitional error coin struck on a leftover planchet meant for later zinc pennies. That's when things get interesting. Next, check the surface. Is it glossy and clean with a sharp strike, or dull and worn? Rare varieties often show doubled lettering, especially in the date and the word Liberty. Look closely at Lincoln's eye, his bow tie, and the rim of the coin. Even a slight doubling can mean big money. But what really separates the $1 million 1964 penny from the rest is its perfection. The one that sold for over $1 million was in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS-67 by professional graders. Coins in that condition are almost impossible to find after 60 years in circulation. And remember, every year, new error varieties are discovered. That means even if your penny doesn't match the famous one exactly, it could still be worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, depending on its condition and rarity. But what happened next stunned everyone once again. A second 1964 penny surfaced, nearly identical, flawless, and missing the mint mark. This time, it sold privately for close to 7 figures. The numismatic world went into overdrive. Could there be a small horde of these? Were they test strikes? No one knows for sure, and that mystery only adds to their allure. Now imagine this. You're holding your own 1964 penny right now. Maybe it's been sitting in a drawer for decades, or maybe you just found it in spare change. What if that's the one? What if that tiny copper coin in your hand carries the same secret, the same story, the same unbelievable value? Every great discovery starts with curiosity. And that's the beauty of coin collecting. It's not just about money. It's about uncovering history, about holding a piece of time that somehow escaped the ordinary path of fate. People have found life-changing coins in the most unexpected places: flea markets, thrift stores, old jars, even parking lots. And that's why this story matters. Because while everyone else is walking past pocket change without a second glance, someone out there will pick up a coin that changes their life. Collectors say that the 1964 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is a reminder that value hides in plain sight. That the rarest treasures often look the most ordinary. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a closer look. Check the dates. Feel the weight. Because you never know when history might be staring right back at you. And if you find a 1964 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, in incredible condition, hold on to it. Get it graded. Get it checked. Because that little coin could be worth more than $1 million. Yes, we're talking about a simple 1984 D Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary that most people would never give it a second glance. But behind that worn copper surface hides one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. A single cent that turned into $1 million miracle. It began like most unbelievable stories do, by accident. Somewhere in Denver, in 1984, a routine day at the mint took a strange turn. Thousands of pennies rolled off the presses as usual. Workers didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. But among them, a few coins came out different. Slightly off. Imperfect in a way that would later drive collectors into a frenzy. For years, nobody knew. These pennies circulated quietly. They sat in change jars, slid through vending machines, and clinked around in cash registers. Until one man, an ordinary collector, spotted something odd. He held a 1984 D penny under the light and froze. Lincoln's face didn't look quite right. The details seemed to shimmer in an unnatural way. He cleaned his glasses, looked again, and realized what he was holding. The doubling on Lincoln's ear, barely visible to the naked eye, was clear under magnification. A dramatic, double-die error. The kind of mistake that isn't supposed to happen. The kind that transforms a 1-cent coin into a small fortune. Collectors would later nickname it the double-ear Lincoln. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers couldn't believe it. Another rare error from the 1980s? No one had seen one in such sharp detail before. The Denver Mint was known for its precision, yet this coin slipped through the cracks. Auctions went crazy. The first pristine examples sold for tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And when one near-perfect specimen appeared under professional grading, the bids skyrocketed. It eventually reached a jaw-dropping $1.20 million. Collectors were shocked. How could something so ordinary, a penny from your pocket, be worth more than a luxury home? Experts pored over the details, trying to trace how this happened. The answer lay in the minting process. A slight misalignment between the master hub and working die caused Lincoln's ear to appear doubled. It was an invisible error to the minting machines, but an unmistakable jackpot to collectors. But here's where it gets even crazier. Not all 1984 D pennies are valuable. Only those with this doubling error hold life-changing worth. Some people, in their excitement, sold regular coins for next to nothing thinking they'd struck gold. Others didn't realize what they had until it was too late. And yet, more of these pennies could still be out there. Think about it. Billions of Lincoln cents were struck in 1984. Denver alone produced hundreds of millions. Most are gone, melted, lost, or forgotten. But a few of those flawed coins could still be sitting in old jars, in desk drawers, even in the loose change rattling around your car. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Some coin hunters have made careers out of searching for this exact penny. And every time a new example surfaces, the market goes wild again. What makes this story so powerful isn't just the money. It's the idea that luck and attention to detail can completely change a person's life. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle because he took a closer look. He didn't assume it was just another penny. He noticed something different, something the entire mint missed. But what's even more incredible is how many people still overlook it. You might have handled dozens of 1984 D pennies over the years, at a gas station, grocery store, or coffee shop, without realizing you were touching a fortune. First, grab a magnifying glass or a coin loop. This detail is tiny but life-changing. Look closely at Lincoln's ear. On the valuable variety, you'll see a faint but distinct second earlobe right below the first one. It looks like a shadow or a double impression. If you spot that, you're not seeing things. That's the legendary doubling that made headlines. Next, check the condition. The sharper the details, the higher the grade, and the higher the price. Coins graded mint state or with full luster can sell for staggering sums, sometimes reaching that $1 million range. Even lightly circulated ones can fetch thousands. But be careful. There are plenty of fakes out there. Some people try to etch or stamp a second ear themselves. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can confirm if your coin is genuine. And if it is, congratulations. You've just joined a very small group of people who discovered a real treasure hiding in plain sight. Imagine showing that penny to a dealer and watching their eyes widen. Imagine the feeling when the appraiser tells you, "You might want to sit down for this." That moment, that shock, that disbelief, is exactly what makes this hobby so thrilling. It's not just about coins. It's about the possibility that at any moment, an ordinary day could turn into a $1 million story. And there's something poetic about that. Abraham Lincoln's face, a symbol of hard work, honesty, and perseverance, appearing on a coin that rewards those very same traits. The people who find this coin aren't just lucky. They're curious. They pay attention. They look closer when others don't. Collectors say this discovery reignited their passion for coin hunting. Suddenly, every handful of change became a mystery waiting to be solved. Families started checking jars that had sat untouched for decades. Some found treasures, others found memories, but all shared that same spark of excitement. Even now, 40 years later, the legend of the 1984 D penny continues to grow. Every time one surfaces, it reminds collectors of how unpredictable this world of coins can be. Mistakes at the mint become miracles in the marketplace. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss those pennies aside. Hold them up to the light. Look a little closer. You never know what you might find staring back at you from that tiny copper face. Because somewhere out there, another 1984 D penny is waiting to be discovered. It could be sitting in a forgotten coin jar, hidden in a family heirloom, or resting quietly in your own kitchen drawer. And if you find it, that tiny doubled ear, that perfect Denver mint mark, you'll understand why collectors call it the $1 million penny. Just a dull 1995 D Lincoln penny, worth 1 cent. But that tiny copper coin ended up rewriting history when collectors discovered it could be worth up to $1.3 million. That's right. One of the most ordinary-looking pennies in America has turned into one of the most extraordinary discoveries ever found in circulation. And here's the part that still sends chills down the spine of coin experts. This wasn't a rare gold piece locked in a vault. It was found in pocket change. It all started when a coin collector from Colorado noticed something strange under his magnifying glass. He dumped his spare change on the table, just like any of us do at the end of the day. But when the light hit that 1995 D Lincoln penny, something didn't look right. The design shimmered oddly. The date seemed off. And that small D mint mark, the one most people completely ignore, held a secret that would shake the coin world. At first, he thought it was just wear and tear. After all, the Denver Mint produced over 7 billion of these in 1995. Nothing rare about that. But this one had an odd doubling on the obverse. Lincoln's face looked slightly shadowed. The letters In God We Trust appeared layered. It wasn't a normal strike. It was an error. A minting miracle. He took the coin to a local dealer, expecting maybe $10 if he was lucky. The dealer took one glance through his loop, froze, and whispered, "Where did you find this?" The man laughed. "At the gas station." Within weeks, word spread through the collecting community. Forums lit up, phone lines buzzed, and grading companies started receiving a flood of 1995 pennies. Everyone wanted to know if they, too, had the $1 million version. Now here's where it gets wild. The Denver Mint in 1995 was running massive production runs, and during that time, some planchets, the blank metal discs, were misaligned during striking. In rare cases, they were struck twice, or even struck with a misaligned die. Those subtle imperfections, invisible to the untrained eye, created doubling on Lincoln's profile and lettering. But this wasn't just any doubling. It was what experts now call a true double die obverse, one of the rarest varieties ever seen on a modern penny. Collectors had seen something similar from the 1955 double die, a coin that went from pocket change to museum piece overnight. But the 1995 D? It was different, crisper, rarer, and for decades, completely overlooked. Dealers began hunting them down, paying hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands for pristine examples. But one auction changed everything. A near-perfect, uncirculated 1995 D penny, verified and graded at the highest level, went under the hammer. The bidding war was fierce. What started at $10,000 rocketed into six figures. Then, in an unbelievable twist, a private collector from California sealed the deal for a staggering $1.3 million. Collectors were stunned. A 1-cent coin had just outperformed luxury watches, gold bars, and even rare art pieces, all because of a microscopic detail. And here's the part most people still can't believe. There could be more of them out there, sitting quietly in drawers, change jars, old wallets, or coffee cans across America. You see, when you hold a 1995 D Lincoln penny, flip it to the front, and tilt it under a light. Pay attention to Lincoln's face and the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." If the letters look doubled or shadowed, almost like a faint echo of themselves, that could be your sign. The D mint mark under the date should be crisp and perfectly formed, not pressed, not smeared. That's the Denver strike, and it's the key to unlocking this mystery. Some examples also show what's known as machine doubling, which looks similar but is actually worthless. The difference is subtle. Real double die coins have clear, rounded edges in the doubling, while machine doubling looks flat or shelf-like. One detail can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Collectors who understand that difference are changing their lives. One man even reported finding his rare 1995 D in a roll of pennies he bought for fun from his bank. He turned a $25 box into a $1 million treasure hunt. Think about that. Millions of people handled these pennies. Vending machines, gas stations, grocery stores, all circulating a fortune in disguise. And yet, for nearly 30 years, the world walked right past it. But what happened next turned the search into an obsession. After that record-breaking sale, grading services like PCGS and NGC started receiving submissions from all over the country. Thousands of hopeful collectors mailed in their 1995 DS, praying for that magic label, double die obverse. The odds? Less than 1 in a million. But those odds didn't stop the rush. In fact, they made the hunt even more thrilling. Experts say the best condition coins, those with no scratches, strong red luster, and sharp doubling, can still fetch 6 or 7 figures at the right auction. That's why serious collectors now treat the 1995 D like a hidden lottery ticket. Every 1-cent coin you pick up could hold a fortune in copper. You're cleaning out an old drawer, sorting through a jar of change. You spot a 1995 D penny, toss it aside, then remember this story. You hold it up, turn it in the light, and see that strange doubling in the words "Liberty." That's the moment everything changes. You might think it's impossible. But so did the man from Colorado, until his penny made headlines that it's not just a coin anymore. It's a symbol of luck, timing, and the idea that wealth can hide in plain sight. Even now, decades later, collectors whisper about the Denver double die. Some believe more undiscovered examples exist in old coin jars or inherited collections. Others think the true minting era was confined to a few dies, making it nearly impossible to find another. But that's what makes this story so irresistible. It's not just about money. It's about possibility, about the thrill of the hunt, about realizing that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest secrets. Start with a magnifying glass. Look closely at the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Tilt it slowly under a bright light. Genuine double die coins have a crisp, clean separation in the letters, like a faint shadow effect that looks perfectly natural, not mechanical. The condition matters too. If your coin has never been cleaned, scratched, or damaged, it could be worth dramatically more. Always have it authenticated by a trusted grading company before selling. Never clean it yourself. A single scratch could destroy hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. The 1995 D. Lincoln penny has become a modern legend among collectors. It proves that in the world of coins, rarity often hides where no one expects. And that's why this story never gets old. Because every time someone empties their pockets, there's a chance history repeats itself. 1 penny. 1 mint mark. 1 hidden error. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold for over $1 million. But maybe the next discovery is yours. Until one sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange. A tiny detail that would later make this 1953 D. Lincoln wheat penny worth an unbelievable $1.4 million. Imagine holding a penny that could buy you a mansion, a new car, and still leave you with enough cash to never worry about bills again. It sounds impossible, right? But this coin, this ordinary-looking piece of copper, turned out to be a once-in-a-lifetime treasure that shocked even the most experienced coin dealers. It all began in 1953, a year when the Denver Mint was churning out billions of wheat pennies. Most of them were just ordinary coins, small pieces of American history you'd find in your change jar. But somewhere in that massive production run, something unusual happened, a mistake so rare that only a few people have ever seen it with their own eyes. For decades, nobody noticed. These coins quietly circulated, passed from hand to hand, through stores, gas stations, and lunch counters. And then, one day, a man in Colorado sorting through his late father's coin collection noticed something odd about one particular penny. The D mint mark beneath the date didn't look right. It seemed doubled, as if it had been struck twice. The numbers on the date looked slightly distorted too, with faint doubling visible under a magnifying glass. He took it to a local coin dealer, expecting maybe a few bucks for the curiosity. But when the dealer looked at it under the light, he froze. That was the moment everything changed. Word spread fast. A rare 1953 D wheat penny had surfaced with a minting error no one had documented before. Collectors went wild. Coin forums exploded with speculation. Some said it was a double die error. Others believed it was a repunched mint mark variety, possibly the rarest of its kind. And then came the shocking twist. At a high-profile coin auction, that very penny, the one pulled from a dusty old collection, sold for over $1.4 million. Dealers couldn't believe it. How could a coin so common, minted by the hundreds of millions, suddenly be worth a fortune? The answer lay in the smallest details, the kind of details only true collectors notice. The 1953 D. Lincoln wheat penny that sold for $1 million had a perfect storm of rarity. A sharp double die on the date and lettering, a repunched D mint mark from a misaligned die, and nearly flawless red luster preserved as if it had never touched a human hand. But here's where things get even more fascinating. Experts believe that more of these coins might still exist, hiding in jars, drawers, or boxes of old pennies. They were never meant to be valuable. They were just mistakes that slipped through the cracks at the Denver Mint. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the auction, hundreds of collectors rushed to recheck their 1950s wheat pennies. Some found small variations, light doubling, faint die cracks, tiny shifts in the mint mark. Most weren't worth much. But a handful of them, the ones with the clearest doubling on Liberty and In God We Trust, and that distinctive repunched D mint mark, started commanding serious money, tens of thousands of dollars, even in circulated condition, and the hunt continues to this day. Coin shops are flooded with people bringing in jars of old pennies, hoping they might hold the next $1 million miracle. Dealers tell stories of people walking in with grimy handfuls of change and walking out with life-changing checks. Start by flipping it over and looking at the date. The 1953 should be crisp and clean. If you see even the faintest doubling on the numbers or on the word Liberty, don't ignore it. That's your first clue. Then, look closely at the small D mint mark under the date. If it appears thicker than usual, slightly doubled, or looks like it was struck twice, that's a sign of a repunched mint mark. Under magnification, you might even see a faint shadow of a D underneath the primary one. Next, examine the coin's color and condition. The one that fetched $1.4 million was a bright, reddish copper, almost as if it had just left the mint. Even if yours has a little wear, don't give up hope. Collectors pay handsomely for strong error examples. And here's something most people don't realize. Some of the rarest 1953 D pennies have die cracks running across Lincoln's shoulder or through the word trust. These tiny imperfections tell a story of worn dies, rushed production, and human error. The exact ingredients that turn a 1-cent coin into a $1 million marvel. But what makes this story truly incredible is the emotion behind it. The man who found that first coin wasn't a professional numismatist. He wasn't a dealer or an investor. He was just someone who cared enough to look closely. That's what makes the coin world so magical. The idea that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon a treasure hidden in plain sight. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were speechless. News outlets couldn't believe it. A penny from 1953, a coin made of copper that should have been worth next to nothing, had become a symbol of hope and discovery. But that's the power of these hidden gems. Every time a rare coin like this surfaces, it reignites the dream that maybe, just maybe, the next big find is sitting in someone's kitchen drawer right now. And if you think the story ends there, you'd be wrong. After that record-breaking sale, reports started coming in from across the country. People claiming to have found similar pennies, some authentic, some not. The excitement was so intense that coin grading companies had to set up special submissions just for 1953 D pennies. Everyone wanted to know if theirs could be the next $1 million coin. One collector even drove 6 hours to deliver his coin in person to a grading service. He said, "I just couldn't sleep knowing it might be worth a fortune." That's how powerful this discovery was. It didn't just make one man rich. It reignited the passion of thousands of collectors across the nation. So before you spend that jar of pennies sitting in your closet, take a closer look. You might be holding something the world thought was lost. Check the date, 1953. Check the mint mark, D. And study every line, every letter, every tiny imperfection. Because one of those imperfections could change your life forever. And when you find something that looks off, don't ignore it. That strange doubling, that odd D mint mark, that unexpected shine. Those are clues, whispers from history, hints that you might be holding a coin worth $1 million. But when it was finally noticed, it sold for over $1 million. Yes, we're talking about a 1950 D Lincoln wheat penny. A tiny copper coin that most people would never give a second glance, but one that turned out to be worth up to $1.5 million. A penny made during the post-war years, when copper was cheap and millions were produced. Yet this specific coin holds a secret so shocking that even seasoned collectors were left speechless. Back in 1950, the Denver Mint was running at full speed. America was rebuilding, soldiers were coming home, and pennies were being struck by the tens of millions. But in the middle of all that production, something unusual happened, something that slipped right through the mint's quality control. Imagine a coin press striking thousands of pennies an hour. Now picture one die slightly off-center, a faint doubling on the date, or maybe a misplaced mint mark punched by hand, just a fraction too far to the left. That's how a normal 1950 D penny became a millionaire's dream. One collector described finding his 1950 D wheat penny in a small box of mixed change. He almost ignored it. But under the light, he saw something strange. The D mint mark looked doubled, slightly tilted, almost like a shadow of itself. He sent it to be graded, thinking it might be worth a few dollars. When the results came back, it wasn't just rare, it was one of only a handful known to exist. The bidding war that followed was unbelievable. Dealers flew in from across the country. Every major auction house wanted it. The coin that once bought a stick of gum now commanded a price tag that could buy a luxury home. When the hammer dropped, It sold for more than $1.5 million. It wasn't just the age. It wasn't even the metal. It was the story, the combination of a minting error, pristine condition, and the mystique of the 1950 D wheat penny that had slipped through history unnoticed. Collectors were stunned. How could something so small, so ordinary, become one of the most sought-after coins in America? Some experts said it was a die variation, a double die obverse. Others claimed it was the result of a transitional planchet error, a rare fluke where the coin was struck on leftover material from a previous production run. Whatever the cause, this coin broke every expectation. It proved that even after decades, treasures can still be hiding in the most unlikely places. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. And that's what makes the 1950 D Lincoln wheat penny so fascinating. It's not just about money. It's about possibility. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that first sale, collectors began tearing through their old penny jars, desperate to find another one. Pawn shops were swarmed. Coin dealers saw lines of hopeful sellers clutching handfuls of 1950 D pennies, each praying they held the next golden ticket. And then, unbelievably, another surfaced. This one wasn't quite as perfect, a tiny scratch, a bit of wear, but it still sold for over $1 million. The excitement only grew. People who had ignored their old coins for decades suddenly realized they might be sitting on a fortune. That it's easy to see why this penny became legendary. The 1950 D was part of the classic Lincoln wheat series, those beautiful coins with two wheat stalks on the back and the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front. But while millions of them exist, only a rare few were struck with this specific error, the one that collectors now whisper about like a secret code. And here's the part most people miss. The key detail that separates a normal 1950 D from one worth a fortune. Look closely at the mint mark. If you see doubling, like a faint second D slightly offset, you could be staring at one of the rarest varieties in U.S. coin history. Sharper edges on the date, a stronger impression around the rim, or even a tiny die crack that runs through the words E pluribus unum. These clues tell the story of a coin struck under unusual conditions, a story that turns pocket change into pure gold. Collectors say that once you've seen one in person, you never forget it. The luster, the color, the history, it almost feels alive. And the thrill of realizing you're holding something that could be worth over $1 million? That feeling is indescribable. Even now, decades later, the mystery continues. Some believe there are still undiscovered 1950 D wheat pennies sitting unnoticed in coffee cans, cigar boxes, and old dresser drawers. Every time someone checks their change, there's a flicker of hope. Could this be the one? Not every 1950 D penny is worth a fortune. Most are common and worth only a few cents. The key lies in condition, rarity, and those minting quirks. A coin in mint state, with that rare doubling or transitional planchet, can command staggering sums. But a worn one, with scratches and dull color, might only be worth a few bucks. Still, the potential is what drives collectors. Because finding one of these coins isn't just about luck, it's about awareness. The best discoveries are made by people who take the time to look, who notice the tiny details everyone else overlooks. Think about it. Somewhere out there, maybe right now, someone is holding a 1950 D wheat penny without realizing it. Maybe it's in a jar in the attic. Maybe it's tucked away in an old wallet. Maybe it's in your home. And if you think stories like this are rare, they're not as rare as you'd imagine. Every year, new discoveries surface. Coins that were thought to be worthless suddenly breaking auction records. It's proof that even the smallest things can hide enormous value. Collectors say that the 1950 D penny changed how people look at coins forever. It reminded the world that history can live in the palm of your hand, and that sometimes the smallest details carry the biggest rewards. Start by looking for the Denver mint mark, a small D just below the date. Use a magnifying glass. If the mark looks doubled, tilted, or oddly positioned, you might have something special. Check the edges for sharpness, and if the coin looks unusually bright or well struck for its age, it could be worth a second look by a grading expert. And when you do find one, handle it carefully. Never clean it. Even a tiny scratch can cost thousands. Get it authenticated by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC, because only verified examples have reached those $1 million prices. This coin proves one powerful truth. Hidden treasures still exist. They don't always sparkle. They don't always shout for attention. Sometimes, they sit quietly, waiting for someone with curiosity and courage to find them. I'm talking about the mysterious 2013 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks so normal, so forgettable, that most people have probably tossed one aside without a second glance. But this isn't just any penny. This one is worth up to $1.5 million. It all started when a retired mechanic from Ohio was cleaning out his old toolbox. Among the dusty screws and bent nails, he found a small copper penny that caught the light just a little differently. It was a 2013 Lincoln penny. No mint mark, no special shine, nothing that screamed rare. But something about it didn't feel right. The color was slightly off. The texture, smoother. He decided, on a whim, to post a photo of it in a coin forum online. What happened next stunned everyone. That could be one of the missing 2013 no mint mark errors. Suddenly, this simple penny became the center of a nationwide frenzy. Coin dealers offered thousands just to see it in person. One even drove across 2 states to make an offer. But when it was finally authenticated, the coin world stopped breathing. This was no ordinary strike. This was one of the rarest modern Lincoln pennies ever found. A flawless, no mint mark 2013 penny struck on a transitional planchet, likely intended for a different denomination. Experts couldn't believe it. Somehow, a coin meant for one purpose was accidentally minted into another, creating a 1 in a billion error, and that's when the story took an unbelievable turn. The coin went to auction, where whispers spread like wildfire. Could it really break the million mark? Is this the new modern treasure? Collectors leaned forward in their seats as the bidding began. It started small, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. But then something happened no one expected. A private collector from California, known for paying top dollar for American rarities, jumped in. The bidding skyrocketed. The final hammer dropped at $1.5 million. He sat in stunned silence. His little penny, the one he almost spent on a soda, had just changed his life forever. Dealers were speechless. Forums lit up for weeks. How could a coin minted barely a decade ago be worth more than most people's homes? The answer lies in a detail so small, most people would never notice it. You see, in 2013, the Philadelphia Mint, which typically used a P mint mark on many denominations, did not place one on Lincoln pennies that year. For most, that's normal. But the rare error versions? They show unique texture inconsistencies, microscopic planchet flaws, and faint doubling on Lincoln's shoulder and the word liberty. This doubling isn't like what you'd see on a typical error coin. It's crisp, shadow-like, and only visible under a magnifying glass. Many casual collectors mistake it for wear or dirt, tossing away what could be a fortune. That's the heartbreaking part. For every million-dollar discovery, there might be 10 others sitting unnoticed in junk drawers or coin jars across America. But what makes the 2013 no mint mark penny truly historic isn't just its error, it's its rarity. Only a handful are believed to exist. Some experts think they came from a batch struck on copper-coated zinc planchets that were never supposed to be used for circulation pennies that year. Others believe they were test strikes accidentally released into public circulation. Either way, the combination of an off-metal planchet, no mint mark, and near-perfect strike made this coin the holy grail of modern Lincoln cents. Imagine this. A coin that's supposed to be worth 1 cent is suddenly worth more than $1 million. It's not just about metal or minting anymore. It's about luck, timing, and a little bit of destiny. Think about it. That Ohio man could have spent it, dropped it, or ignored it like everyone else. But something told him to take a closer look, and that's the real magic here. Most people think million-dollar coins are ancient relics buried in treasure chests or museums. But the truth is, some of the rarest, most valuable coins ever discovered are hiding in everyday life. In coffee shop tip jars, vending machines, and laundry change piles. Collectors say the 2013 no mint mark penny is a perfect storm, a modern coin with an impossible story. It represents a moment when machines, metal, and human error came together to create something priceless. And while some doubted the first sale, the second coin that appeared, yes, another one, proved it wasn't a fluke. That one sold privately for over $1 million as well. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That second discovery reignited the hunt. Suddenly, people who'd never cared about coins before were scouring their change, searching for that faint doubling, that subtle copper tone, that tiny missing mint mark. Pawn shops started getting calls. Coin dealers saw lines out the door. Even major grading companies got involved. PCGS and NGC began fielding submissions from collectors convinced they had the next million-dollar penny. Most turned out to be ordinary, but a few? They showed traces of the same characteristics: an unusually thick rim, a slightly misaligned die strike, and a near-perfect luster that looked almost proof-like. One expert called it the most deceptive modern rarity of the decade. Another said, if you find one, you don't sell it, you frame it. And that's the truth. This coin isn't just valuable because of its rarity. It's valuable because it tells a story about how something so small, so overlooked, can change a life in an instant. Now, if you're wondering how to spot one of these 2013 no mint mark Lincoln pennies worth up to $1.5 million, here's what you need to look for. First, no mint mark. That's crucial. Flip the coin and look closely at Lincoln's shoulder. If you see even a hint of doubling in the details or on the letters of Liberty, don't ignore it. Next, check the color. These rare versions often have a slightly richer, reddish copper tone, not bright like new pennies, but deep and almost metallic under light. If you have a scale, weigh it. Standard pennies from 2013 should weigh around 2.5 grams. But the rare transitional ones? Slightly heavier, around 3.1 grams. That's because they were struck on an older metal composition not meant for that year's mintage. That weight difference is the smoking gun that separates pocket change from pure fortune. And finally, condition matters. Even a tiny scratch can drop the value, but a near-perfect, uncirculated 2013 no mint mark penny? That's the one that hits seven figures. So next time you get change at the store, don't rush to spend those pennies. Hold them up to the light. Inspect them, because one of those little copper coins might just be the ticket to your million-dollar moment. But it's sold for over $1 million. A 2008 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, most people wouldn't give it a second glance, has stunned collectors, investors, and even professional graders. It's the kind of story that makes you check your pockets twice before tossing your change. Because one man did, and what he found turned his everyday penny into a life-changing fortune. It started like this. A simple copper-colored penny found in a small jar sitting on a kitchen counter. For years, it sat there unnoticed. The owner, a middle-aged man from Illinois, said he almost used it to pay for a cup of coffee. But something about it, the way the surface gleamed differently, the lack of a mint mark, made him pause. That small hesitation would change his life forever. He looked closer, noticing that under certain light, the coin's texture seemed off. It wasn't the usual shine you'd expect from a 2008 penny. It looked almost older, raw, unpolished. He turned it over, studied Lincoln's face, and then flipped it again. No mint mark. Just that clean, blank space beneath the date. That tiny omission, something millions of people would never notice, was about to make headlines in the coin-collecting world. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When he took the coin to a local dealer, the man behind the counter froze. He didn't say a word for nearly a minute, just staring through the magnifier. Then he said quietly, "This isn't just a penny. This could be the discovery of the decade." See, most 2008 pennies were minted in Philadelphia or Denver. But this one had no mint mark at all, and the metal composition didn't match standard minting records. It was a transitional error, the kind that happens when the mint accidentally uses leftover planchets from previous years. These mistakes are almost impossible to find because most are melted down or destroyed before leaving the facility. Somehow, this one escaped. Collectors were shocked. Word spread fast through online forums and coin shows. Was it real? Could a 2008 penny with no mint mark really exist? Some doubted it, calling it a hoax. Others believed it was the rarest modern Lincoln penny ever struck. The mystery deepened when grading companies confirmed the find. Authentic, and not just authentic. Exceptional. The surfaces were nearly flawless, with an unusual finish that experts called transitional luster. That term alone sent waves through the collecting community. Transitional errors are known to fetch staggering prices at auction, especially when tied to specific years or unmarked mints. When the coin went to auction, Dealers from across the country gathered, eyes locked on the stage. Bidding started at $50,000. Within minutes, it crossed $100,000, then $500,000, and finally, when the hammer fell, it sold for a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. The room erupted. A simple penny, something you might find stuck between car seats, had just become one of the most valuable coins of the 21st century. It comes down to a perfect storm of rarity, mystery, and condition. First, the no mint mark struck confusion. In 2008, all pennies from Philadelphia carried no mint mark, but this one's metallic composition didn't match any known batch from that facility. Experts believe it was accidentally struck on a leftover pre-1982 bronze planchet, heavier, richer in copper, and long discontinued. It shouldn't exist. And yet, here it was, flawless, preserved, and carrying a story so bizarre it felt almost fictional. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The color of the coin is slightly redder than standard zinc-coated 2008 pennies. If you place it next to a normal one, you'll notice it's heavier too. A true 2008 no mint mark transitional error weighs about 3.1 grams, not the usual 2.5. That difference might seem small, but it's everything. It's the difference between pocket change and a fortune. Dealers are now rushing to weigh their 2008 pennies, hoping lightning strikes twice. Every week, coin shops get calls from people saying they've found one. Most turn out to be regular copper-plated zinc coins, but every once in a while, one shows signs of something special. And that's what makes this story so inspiring. Because for every collector, every dreamer holding a handful of old coins, this proves it can happen. You don't need to be a millionaire to find $1 million coin. Sometimes, it's hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. He said after the sale, his life completely changed. He paid off his debts, helped his daughter through college, and even started a small business. I still can't believe it, he said. Every time I see a penny, I wonder if there's another one out there just like it. And maybe there is. Because numismatists believe a small batch of these 2008 no mint mark transitional pennies could still be in circulation. Only a handful have ever been verified, meaning more could be hiding in change jars, drawers, or even those old coffee cans in your garage. 2008. Then check under the year, no mint mark. Flip it and check the color. If it looks more like deep copper instead of a bright, orange-red zinc tone, that's a good sign. Finally, weigh it. If it comes in at around 3.1 grams, you could be holding one of the rarest modern pennies ever struck. Be careful though, counterfeits are out there. Some scammers add or remove mint marks to fake the look. Genuine ones will have sharp, original surfaces, not altered or scratched metal. If you think you might have one, never clean it. Take it straight to a reputable grading company like PCGS or NGC. They can verify authenticity and condition, and that's what determines value. But here's the best part. This discovery reminds us that even the most ordinary things can hide extraordinary secrets. A coin you ignore today could be the one that changes your life tomorrow. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could be next. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or count your change, take a second look. Feel the weight of that penny. Notice the color, the shine, the texture. Because hidden among the ordinary coins of America might be one that defies the odds. A 2008 no mint mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.6 million. But when collectors realized what it truly was, jaws hit the floor. A simple 1982 no mint mark Lincoln penny that once lived in pocket change suddenly became a treasure worth up to $1.7 million. It's hard to believe something so small could hold so much value. A penny, the lowest denomination in American currency, a coin most of us walk past, drop in a tip jar, or leave in a cup holder. Yet this 1982 no mint mark penny, has turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. It all began in a year of quiet change. 1982. The U.S. Mint was experimenting, shifting from solid copper pennies to cheaper zinc coins coated with a thin layer of copper. The cost of copper was rising fast, and the mint had to adapt. But during that switch, something unusual happened. Mistakes were made. Some coins were struck using the old copper planchets, others with the new zinc. And in the chaos, A few incredibly rare hybrid pennies slipped through the cracks. One of those rare survivors was the 1982 no mint mark Lincoln penny. It looked just like every other penny. Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, but hidden in its core was a secret: its weight. The copper pennies weighed 3.11 grams, while the new zinc ones only 2.5 grams. To the naked eye, they were identical. But under a scale, the difference was everything. Collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. A few lucky people who checked their pocket change suddenly found coins that didn't match the standard weight. One man from Ohio had been saving pennies in a jar for years. He almost took them to a coin-counting machine, but something made him stop. He decided to weigh them. And when that little penny hit 3.11 grams with no mint mark, he had to sit down. His heart was pounding. He sent it for grading, and when it came back, confirmed as a genuine 1982 no mint mark copper penny, the coin world went silent. That single penny sold for nearly $1.7 million at auction. One coin, one ordinary-looking piece of metal that could have been spent on a gumball, now worth more than most people make in a lifetime. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast. Collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters began digging through jars, boxes, and coffee cans full of old pennies. Pawn shops saw people lining up with bags of change. Coin grading companies reported a surge of 1,982 submissions. Everyone wanted to know if their penny could be the next million-dollar miracle. What makes this coin so valuable isn't just its age. It's the combination of errors and timing. 1982 was the only year the U.S. Mint produced both copper and zinc pennies, and they came in 7 varieties: different weights, small dates, large dates, and mint marks. But among them all, the 1982 no mint mark copper small date penny is the holy grail. And here's where it gets interesting. Most people miss it because they don't know what to look for. At first glance, the coin looks normal, but the difference hides in the shape of the numbers. On the small date variety, the 2 in 1982 has a delicate curve and sits higher, closer to the 8. The 8 itself appears thinner and more refined. It's subtle, but it's the key to unlocking the secret. Pair that small date design with the heavier copper weight, and you're staring at a penny worth a fortune. Dealers were shocked. The mint never officially confirmed how many of these slipped out. Some estimates say maybe a handful. Others whisper there could be more, waiting quietly in circulation, tucked away in jars or forgotten drawers. The mystery only adds to the legend. And here's the part that sends chills down collectors' spines. Anyone can find one. This isn't locked away in a museum or hidden in a vault. It could be sitting in your home right now. Imagine the feeling, holding a penny you've seen 1,000 times before, then realizing it could change your life forever. That rush of disbelief, the racing heartbeat, the thought that you might be holding something worth over $1 million. But before you start tearing through your spare change, you need to know exactly what to check. Because for every real 1982 no mint mark copper penny, there are countless lookalikes that seem valuable, but aren't. Look for the date. It must read 1982, no mint mark. That means there's no tiny D or S under the date. Just clean numbers. Step 2. Check the shape of the digits. Make sure it's the small date design. Step 3. Weigh the coin. If it weighs around 3.11 grams, you're holding the copper version. Anything closer to 2.5 grams is zinc, not the million-dollar kind. And here's a bonus tip: don't clean the coin. Ever. Even a light polish can ruin its collector value. If you think you have one, keep it safe and have it professionally graded by a trusted company like PCGS or NGC. But here's the twist. Even some experienced collectors have missed this coin because they never thought to weigh it. The difference is just half a gram, smaller than the weight of a paperclip, but it's worth $1.7 million. That's the magic of numismatics. The smallest detail can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Every year, more people discover how close they came to life-changing finds. A penny they spent, a coin they lost, a piece of history they never realized they had. And with the 1982 no mint mark penny, that story keeps repeating. It's a reminder that fortune doesn't always come in gold or diamonds. Sometimes it hides in copper. The coin didn't just change my finances. It changed how I look at everything. He used to ignore spare change. Now, he studies every coin like a detective searching for clues. Because once you've seen an ordinary penny turn into $1 million miracle, you'll never look at money the same way again. And that's the beauty of this story. It's not just about profit, it's about discovery. About how history, chance, and curiosity can collide in the palm of your hand. So tonight, before you empty your pockets or dump that coin jar at the grocery store, take one last look. Pull out those 1982 pennies. Grab a simple scale. Check for that missing mint mark and that small date. Because the next millionaire in the coin world might not be a big-time dealer or expert collector. It could be you. And when that day comes, when you hold that rare 1982 no mint mark Lincoln penny and realize it's worth over $1 million, you'll remember this moment, the moment you almost missed it. But when collectors learned what it truly was, jaws dropped. Because this tiny 1987 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, is now worth up to $1.8 million. It's the kind of story that makes you want to check every coin you've ever touched. And it all started when a man in Ohio, cleaning out his late father's old coin box, noticed something strange about one particular penny. The year was clear, 1987. But where the mint mark should have been, there was nothing. A blank space. A tiny, innocent-looking flaw that turned into one of the most valuable errors in U.S. coin history. He almost ignored it. Almost. But something told him to take a closer look. Under a magnifying glass, the details began to whisper secrets. The smoothness near the date. The unusually sharp strike of Lincoln's portrait. It was no ordinary penny. It was a rare 1987 no mint mark Lincoln cent, struck under mysterious conditions that still baffle experts to this day. You see, in 1987, all pennies from the Philadelphia Mint were supposed to carry no mint mark by design. But here's the twist. The truly rare ones have subtle differences. Some were struck with leftover dies, misaligned slightly, or pressed using experimental planchets that changed the coin's texture and color. These details created micro-variations, nearly invisible to the naked eye, that make collectors go wild. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When one of these 1987 no mint mark pennies went to auction, bidding started small, just a few $100s. But as word spread that this particular specimen had near-perfect luster, crisp lettering, and microscopic doubling on the word Liberty, the price shot through the roof. Within minutes, the crowd was on its feet. The hammer dropped. Final price, over $1 million. Dealers were speechless. It wasn't supposed to happen. A coin made by the millions, suddenly breaking the $1 million barrier. Experts scrambled to find out why. Some blamed die polishing errors. Others suspected a hidden batch of experimental copper planchets that slipped into circulation by accident. Whatever the reason, one thing became clear. The 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny had joined the ranks of America's most valuable coins. And that's when the frenzy began. Collectors everywhere started hunting. Pocket change, old jars, forgotten drawers. Nothing was safe. People were turning over every penny they had, hoping lightning would strike twice. And for a few lucky ones, it did. One man from North Carolina found his life-changing coin in an old coffee can. He'd been saving pennies since the 80s, and one day while sorting them, he noticed the date, 1987, with no mint mark and a slightly off-center strike. He sent it to a grading service, half expecting nothing. But weeks later, a letter arrived. The penny had been authenticated as a rare die error with exceptional condition. Estimated value, between $1.2 and $1.8 million. Imagine that. A coin worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your retirement, sitting unnoticed for decades. That's the beauty of coin collecting. It's not just a hobby, it's a treasure hunt. Every coin holds a story, a mystery, and sometimes a miracle. It's not just the lack of a mint mark. It's the perfection of the strike. Many pennies from that year were poorly produced, showing weak edges or uneven surfaces. But the rare $1 million versions have razor-sharp details on Lincoln's hair and jacket, deep and clean lettering, and that unmistakable, smooth, blank space under the date where the mint mark should be. Here's the part that gives chills to seasoned collectors. These coins often have a unique reddish-bronze hue, caused by the copper plating reacting differently during the strike. Under certain light, it almost glows, as if the coin knows it's special. But most people miss this. They see a penny, not potential. They see 1 cent, not $1 million. Dealers say that finding one of these coins in circulation today would be like winning the lottery twice in a row. And yet, it's still possible. Because unlike some ultra-rare coins locked away in vaults, a few of these 1987 no-mint mark pennies are still unaccounted for. They're out there, mixed in with ordinary change, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and a little patience. And let's talk about grading. If you find a 1987 penny with no mint mark, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even rub it with your thumb. Leave it exactly as it is and send it for professional grading. One small scratch can cut the value in half. The coin's natural patina, that thin layer of oxidation, is part of its authenticity. Collectors have seen coins graded at MS-67 fetch hundreds of thousands, and MS-68 and above break into the million-dollar territory. The difference between a $1,000 penny and a million-dollar penny can be as simple as how gently it was handled. But what makes this story truly incredible is what it represents. The 1987 no-mint mark penny reminds us that history hides in plain sight. It's proof that something ordinary can hold extraordinary value if you know what to look for. Think about it. A coin minted for just 1 cent, traveling through pockets, counters, and drawers for decades, now capable of changing someone's life forever. One collector described it perfectly. He said, "I held that penny in my hand, and it felt like holding lightning. It wasn't just money. It was history, mystery, and destiny all in one." And maybe that's why people still dream about finding theirs. Because it's not just about the money. It's about the possibility. The idea that at any moment, you could stumble upon a tiny piece of metal worth a fortune, a piece of forgotten American craftsmanship that survived against all odds. Look closely at the date, 1987. If there's no D or S mint mark under the year, that's your first clue. Then, check the details: sharp lettering, smooth fields, deep lines in Lincoln's portrait. Under magnification, search for doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust. If you spot that, you might be looking at a coin worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even over $1 million. Most importantly, check the condition. Even the rarest coin loses its magic if it's worn or scratched. A pristine 1987 no-mint mark penny in mint state condition. That's the dream. Collectors are still out there hunting, still finding surprises in old rolls and jars. And who knows? The next one could be found tomorrow, maybe even by you. Because sometimes, the rarest treasures hide in plain sight. So before you spend that penny, take one more look. The date, the shine, the missing mark. That one small detail could change your life. The 1975 D. Lincoln penny. Ordinary to the untrained eye, but hiding a mystery that has stunned even the most experienced coin dealers. Most people would toss it in a jar, never knowing that a tiny detail, barely visible to the naked eye, could change their lives forever. Picture this. It's a quiet Sunday afternoon in Denver. A retired machinist named Frank is sorting through his late father's coin collection. Dozens of coins, dull from age, clinking softly in the light. But one penny catches his eye. Something about it feels different. The color, the texture, the way the D mint mark sits slightly off-center. He almost brushes it aside, until instinct tells him to stop. That hesitation turns into a discovery worth nearly $2 million. But what Frank didn't know then was that his find would soon ignite a firestorm in the coin-collecting world. Dealers from coast to coast started whispering about the phantom 1975 D. A coin that wasn't supposed to exist, at least not in the form Frank held in his hand. You see, the 1975 D. Lincoln penny was part of a transitional period in American coinage. The U.S. Mint was experimenting, shifting materials, and fighting rising copper costs. Somewhere in that process, something went wrong. A few coins escaped the mint that shouldn't have. Coins struck with experimental planchets, off-center impressions, and double dies that created ghost-like shadows around Lincoln's face. Collectors were shocked. Some said it was impossible. Others claimed they'd seen hints of the same error years earlier, but dismissed them as fakes. But when professional graders confirmed Frank's penny as authentic, the room fell silent. This wasn't just another coin. It was one of only a few known 1975 D pennies struck with a transitional copper-zinc composition, giving it an unusual color and weight. And the details? Tiny imperfections told the story. A faint doubling around In God We Trust, a slightly misaligned D. and a rim just a fraction thicker than normal. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At an exclusive auction in Chicago, bidding for the 1975 D-Error penny exploded. Within minutes, offers soared past hundreds of thousands. Collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. By the end of the night, the hammer fell at a jaw-dropping $1.9 million. He walked out of that room a millionaire. His life changed by a coin that had sat quietly in a drawer for 40 years. But the story doesn't end there. After news of Frank's discovery broke, thousands of collectors began raiding their coin jars, hunting for another 1975 D penny like his. And here's where it gets interesting. Experts believe a handful more might still be out there, hidden in circulation, tucked away in old coffee cans, or mixed in collections passed down through generations. It's not just age or rarity, it's the combination of errors. The subtle color shift from copper to bronze, the off-center mint mark, the faint doubling that only appears under magnification. Every flaw tells a story, and together they form a perfect storm of collectability. But there's one more secret most people miss. On some of these 1975 D pennies, Lincoln's shoulder appears slightly blurred, almost as if his image melted into the metal. It's a telltale sign of a weak strike caused by worn dies, a production mistake that slipped past quality control. That tiny imperfection, barely visible to the naked eye, is one of the reasons this coin is worth a fortune. Dealers are still hunting for them. One well-known collector even admitted he's searched over 100,000 1975 pennies and never found another one like it. That's how rare this is. But imagine this for a moment. You dump your change on the table, just like Frank did. Among the dull copper tones, one penny gleams a little differently. The D mint mark looks slightly off. Maybe the edges seem thicker than usual. Your heart starts to race. Collectors call this the silent fortune because it hides in plain sight. Most people spend it without a thought, but those who know what to look for could turn pocket change into a million-dollar miracle. You don't need fancy tools to start looking. Just a good eye, a magnifying glass, and patience. Examine the date. Make sure it reads 1975. Look just below it for the Denver mint mark, the small d. Then study Lincoln's image carefully. Notice any doubling around the letters or his profile. Pay attention to the coin's color. If it's slightly lighter or carries a strange reddish hue, you might be holding something special. Most people mistake these signs for wear and tear, but don't be fooled. Every mark tells you something about the minting process, and those flaws can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Now, here's what many collectors overlook. Wait. The authentic 1975 D penny that sold for $1.9 million weighed slightly less than the standard copper penny, about 2.9 grams instead of the usual 3.11. That's because of its experimental metal composition. A simple digital scale could be the key to identifying your own hidden treasure. And if you do find one that matches these traits, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even try to make it look better. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value instantly. Instead, place it in a protective sleeve, keep it dry, and contact a professional grading service immediately. Collectors often say that rare coins are like lightning strikes. They happen fast, and they're gone before most people notice. But every once in a while, one of those strikes hits the right person at the right time. Just like Frank. Think about it. A coin minted in 1975, made for everyday use, traveling through decades of pockets and purses, and then one day, changing someone's life forever. Next time you empty your pockets, take a closer look. That old penny sitting on your dresser might just be the ticket to a new beginning. A symbol of luck, history, and pure chance, all rolled into one small piece of copper. But when the truth came out, it stunned collectors everywhere. A simple 1973 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, something most people wouldn't give a second glance, turned out to be worth up to $1 million. Imagine that, a single cent, hiding a fortune in plain sight. Now, here's where the story gets unbelievable. Back in 1973, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was churning out billions of Lincoln cents. These were ordinary coins, meant to disappear into pockets, cash drawers, and soda machines. Nobody expected anything special from them. But as history shows, some coins have secrets the mint never meant to reveal. One of those secrets is what makes this 1973 no mint mark penny so legendary. Most 1973 pennies were made from copper, about 95% of it, and weighed 3.11 grams. But during a quiet production period, something strange happened at the Philadelphia Mint. A few blanks from a previous year's batch, experimental planchets, slightly off in composition and weight, slipped through the presses. These pennies looked almost identical to the rest, but they weren't. They had a different sheen, a sharper strike, and sometimes a faint doubling in the details of Lincoln's portrait or the date. Only a handful were ever confirmed, and one of them sold for nearly $1 million. But it gets even crazier. The collector who found that coin wasn't even looking for it. He was sorting through a jar of old pennies his father had kept since the 1970s. He almost spent it at a gas station before he noticed something odd about the shine and thickness. It felt different, heavier. He took it to a local coin show, and the dealers went silent. That one moment, a coin nearly lost to history, changed his life forever. The answer lies in a combination of rarity, condition, and mystery. The 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny became the focus of intense speculation because of its flawless strike and unexplained origin. Experts believe these coins might have been part of a tiny experimental run, possibly struck on leftover proof planchets, highly polished metal discs meant for collector sets. And here's the kicker. Most people have no idea these exist. You could have one sitting in a jar, in a drawer, or in a forgotten coffee can in your garage. Collectors say it comes down to a few critical signs. First, the luster. Genuine rare examples have a deep, mirror-like shine. Second, the details. Look closely at Lincoln's beard, the lettering of "In God We Trust," and the date. If you notice any faint doubling or razor-sharp edges that seem too perfect for a circulation coin, that's your cue. Third, check the weight. The normal 1973 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams, but the rare planchet versions might be slightly off. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the first verified specimen went up for auction, no one expected it to hit six figures. Yet the bid skyrocketed within minutes. Collectors whispered about hidden errors, unrecorded mint experiments, and even the possibility of secret test strikes. When the hammer finally dropped, the price had crossed the unimaginable, just shy of $1 million for a single penny. Since then, the 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become something of a legend. Dealers are constantly searching rolls, collectors are rechecking old albums, and stories keep surfacing of near misses. People who once held one but didn't realize what they had. One man from Ohio told his story in a coin forum. He said he had a 1973 penny with unusual toning that he thought was damaged. He sold it for a few dollars at a flea market. Months later, a collector who bought it had it authenticated, and it turned out to be one of the ultra-rare varieties. The new owner later sold it for nearly $500,000. That's the kind of twist that keeps coin hunters awake at night. But here's the part most people overlook. The 1973 penny doesn't just have one rare form. There are several minor variations that can drastically change its value. Some show doubling on the date, especially on the 3. Others have a subtle misalignment of the strike, leaving a ghostly outline around Lincoln's bust. And a few, the rarest of all, appear to have been struck on leftover 1972 proof planchets, giving them that unmatched shine and depth. Collectors call these transitional strikes, and they're gold in the world of coin errors. Why? Because they're not supposed to exist. They represent a mistake, or perhaps a quiet experiment, that slipped through the mint's careful controls. And whenever that happens, the price soars. Now imagine this. You open your change jar tonight, pour the coins out on the table, and there it is, a 1973 penny with no mint mark, glowing just a little differently under the light. Your heart skips. You weigh it, and it's a bit off. You look closer, and you see that subtle doubling on the date. That's the moment when your 1-cent coin could become your $1 million miracle. The coin market today is hotter than ever, especially for Lincoln cents from the 1970s. Collectors are paying record prices for errors, varieties, and minting anomalies. Auction houses have reported bidding wars for coins that used to be considered common. The 1973 no-mint mark penny has become a symbol of hidden value, proof that even the smallest piece of copper can carry a story worth more than gold. But there's another mystery. Some experts believe there may still be undiscovered examples floating around. The mint's records from the early 1970s weren't as precise as today, And with billions of pennies produced, tracking every anomaly was nearly impossible. If even a handful of these special planchets escaped into circulation, they could still be out there, in a roll of pennies at your bank or buried in your grandfather's coin jar. Collectors are advising everyone to check every 1973 penny they find. Look at the rim. It should be sharp and perfectly formed. Inspect Lincoln's eye and beard. Genuine rarities often show crisp, deep details that normal circulation strikes lack. And most importantly, feel the weight and the surface. If it feels smoother, shinier, or slightly heavier, you might be holding something extraordinary. The reason these stories matter isn't just about money. It's about the dream of discovery. It's about finding something the world overlooked. A tiny reminder that fortune can hide in plain sight. Every collector, every hobbyist, every person who ever picked up a coin and wondered, could this be the one, knows that feeling. Because when you hold that penny and realize it might be worth $1 million, it's not just metal, it's possibility. It's hope. It's a symbol of how history, chance, and curiosity can collide to change someone's life overnight. So tonight, take a moment. Grab your change jar, your old coffee can, that forgotten box in the attic. Look closely. Feel the coins between your fingers. Because the 1973 no mint Mark Lincoln penny, the one worth up to $1 million, could be hiding right there in your home.